What is up, drapers, japers, and reality escapers? Thanks for sitting down with me this week. As always, I am your host, the human embodiment of a fart you thought was a shit. Sorry about that. Go get yourself cleaned up, take a seat, and, I don't know, man, let's talk about some stuff for a bit. I don't know whether to pretend like I haven't been gone or address it. Let's make like an envelope and address it. Life isn't good right now. I have alluded to that quite a bit in the past. I still don't really feel like talking about it, mostly because I don't, who cares? Everyone's got their shit. But really, I took a break just because, I don't know, I ran out of steam, I think, in a lot of ways in my life, and I still feel like I'm in the process of revving up creative steam, and maybe I never will. I don't know. But I have a lot more time on my hands now. So potentially I will have that freedom and that flexibility to make, the heavyweight content that the people crave. Something I have been doing that's taken a lot of my time recently is getting really into TTRPGs, the D&Ds, the Pathfinders of the world, but like actually good systems that aren't crunchy number based and don't make my tiny brain hurt. And some friends and I are actually starting a podcast, which is why I have this nifty little microphone right here. I got a few of them. And so apropos of that, I thought I would talk about kind of a lesser known TTRPG system that we discovered recently in an attempt to sort of escape the heavy drama and edgy backstory tendencies that we have, and maybe get into some happier, warmer territory. As you can see, my dogs behind me are battling it out for the throne of the Tempur-Pedic mattress. Who will win? You'll just have to watch to find out. So the TTRPG that I'm talking about, and if you don't know, a TTRPG stands for Tabletop Role-Playing Game. You see, a normal role-playing game you might play on your Xbox 360 or your PlayStation 1 or your Atari, but a tabletop role-playing game, well, you play it on your tabletop, don't you? Like a real gamer, if you will. And so, yeah, the most common one's D&D, Critical Role. They're huge. Everyone knows what D&D is. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm doing it anyway. The one that I'm talking about today, I don't know how many of you will know about, because I certainly didn't know about it, and my perspective only goes as far as what I know about. So let's talk about it. The TTRPG I'm talking about today is called Wanderhome. I'll put a nice little picture right here. I have a print version on the way, but the spirit caught me to film a video, and I snatched it. So we'll have to wait to see the beautiful hardcover edition of it. But Wanderhome is a game designed by Jay Dragon that came out some amount of time ago. I'll put the number in a really funny place on the screen. It came out this many years ago, and it was on Kickstarter, and it's a really neat concept. If you're like me and you grew up reading the Redwall books or stuff like The Wind in the Willows or Watership Down, if you're like into fucked up animal stuff, not that kind of fucked up animal stuff. Calm down. That's in the sequel, Watership Bottom. I don't know whether to put an applause or a cricket sound effect there. Probably crickets. We're shaking the dust off. Don't worry about it. Those stories all are quite charming because they got little animals in it, don't they? We love the little animals when they're not us. We love that they're not us because us kind of sucks. But because we're humans, we have a tendency to impart our qualities atop them, which then kind of makes them suck. And, they do wars and crimes to each other, and there's villains, and, who has time for all that? There's enough of that going on in every role-playing system and in the world. And so what Wanderhome asks is, basically, what if Frodo was a little cute bug person, or cat person, or dog, or really any animal you like, and never left the Shire? What if The Lord of the Rings was just a slice of life Shire miniseries? And that's basically what Wanderhome is. You are these little cute animal people. You have these very cute animal jobs that you may or may not do. You can be a caretaker for old and forgotten gods. Peep the fucking swag. Star Wars pajamas, by the way. You can be a veteran of a war that is now over, who has the strongest blade in the world, and you must never draw it. If you draw the sword, you have to retire the character. You can be, what am I? I am the Firelight in our campaign, who is a little guy with a little firefly friend, right? I mean, you might have picked that out, who guides people both literally and figuratively. So he's like a trail guide / psychiatrist. It's very interesting and very neat. And so the basic structure of Wanderhome proceeds like this. When you start your session, you are rolling into a new place. You are always on the road. You are always traveling. So you ask yourself 3 questions. Where have we just come from? Do we feel like our journey has been long? And is there anywhere that we'd like to go? Now, there's a 4th question that you ask silently, but I'll get to that a little later, maybe, if I don't forget. I probably will. Can you remind me? Remind me in the comments down below not to forget the 4th thing. And so each time you roll into a new place, the game has a system that helps you set up what that place is. And those are called traits. For places, actually, they're called natures. For people, they're called traits. And so a nature can be anything from a liminal nature, something like a bridge or a tunnel or a mirage, to something like a sprawling nature, like a city or a carnival. And so, for instance, in our campaign, the first place that we went to, you always pick 3 natures. The first place we went to was a carnival in a swamp that had a mirrors aspect to it. And mirrors can be literal or, in our case, figurative, which is sort of reflecting back on our characters, who they are, and what exactly they're looking for, what's going on in their life. Same thing with NPCs. When you meet an NPC, you can either roll for these traits or you can pick them out. There's tons of them in the book. There are different types of traits, like I forget what the kind of default ones are called, but there's also magical traits and traumatized traits. And traumatized traits are separated specifically so if you don't want to include that sort of stuff in your campaign, you don't have to, because the whole idea of Wanderhome and this setting is that let's take a break from all the grimness. Let's try to tell happy, cute, fluffy little saccharine stories, right? My playgroup and I are already very well aware that we're gonna make it sad somehow. I mean, it's already there, but ideally there will be a less depressive feeling and more, kind of that melancholy of a nice sunset with good friends that won't last forever, both the sunset and the friendships. You know what I mean? That kind of shit. That kind of Frank Ocean Skyline 2 kind of shit is exactly the soundtrack I have in mind, or White Ferrari. Really just pick any Frank Ocean song out of a hat and it'll work for me. So that's how you make places. That's how you make people. And you might be asking, like, how do you make a character? Well, the cool thing is each character has a slightly different way of being created. There are these prompts that you are asked that are all character-based and roleplay, and all influence roleplay. For instance, my character, the Firelight, there's the question, choose one light that you'll never let die and another you let die long ago. And there's a series of suggestions. And of course you can write your own, right? Don't feel restricted by these things. But what you'll notice, what you'll notice very quickly as you look through the character sheets and look through the rules of the game, no dice in this. None. No strength characteristic. How do I roll to know if I punch good? Hopefully you're not punching anybody in this game. But if you do that, I mean, you punch them, man. Or you don't, depending on whether the fiction calls for it to be more interesting. And this is why I think Wanderhome is not for everybody. I think that it is for a very specific type of group, which my group happens to fall right into. And I also think it might be for people who are newer to role-playing. As weird as that sounds, one of the things that you can do in Wanderhome, which is something that we are choosing to do, is not have a GM, not have a dungeon master. You kind of just bounce ideas off each other, take turns playing NPCs. It really requires a trust in each other, I think, and an openness. But we've really loved it. In just the world building and our character creation, it felt really good and really strong. There's really one mechanical system in the game, other than just kind of having this storytelling conversation with your friends, using the book really as a prompt book for places and people, which is the token system. And I'm going to put up 2 screenshots here and here. Well, let's maybe make it on either side of my face, Dan. Here and here, that describe when you get a token and describe how you spend a token. And these are things like you get a token when you describe something beautiful about the world. You get a token when you take a second to ask someone for help or go out of your way to help somebody. You get a token when you do something interesting, essentially. When you play your character, it's a little bit like inspiration in D&D, except instead of a dice that will make your dice roll less dice rolly, it's a little token that you can use to spend on things like knowing things about people, seeing into the depths of people, like being able to read somebody, using insight, the old insight check in D&D to see what someone might be feeling or thinking, even if they're not the most forthcoming about it. And maybe using that information to help them or to fix a situation. Although on that subject, one of the cool things about Wanderhome that I really like is this third screenshot, which I'll put right above my head, which is about solving people's problems. I think it's really, really common in tabletop games to walk into a place, find out what the problem is, fix the problem, leave. This is an unrealistic representation of the world, right? So is being an animal person, gotcha, L plus ratio. But Wanderhome kind of makes it very clear you're probably not going to solve these people's problems because you are not equipped to solve the problems in the way that they are. In the way that you, watching this video, you have a set of problems. If someone came through your town and walked up to you and was like, "What's your problem, man?" And you were like, I just feel a sort of disquieting emptiness in my life. And I'm kind of afraid that no matter what I do, that hole will always be there. And it can't really be plugged by things or by people. And so it's just me that's left to plug that hole, and no career accolades or personal achievement or growth seems to fill it, and it's just always there. And what do I do about that? How do you live with that feeling in your chest all the time? And does everyone feel this, or is it just me? And if it's just me, what's wrong with me? And if it's everyone, how is everyone carrying on? And also the world's ending, and they're going to look at you and they're going to be like, "I can fix that for you, dude. No problem." People are not equipped to solve your problems. Even if your problem is as simple as like, man, my neighbor stole my shit. Like, you're probably better equipped to handle that in your community than some random dude with a sword passing through town is. Also, why does this guy have a sword on his back in 2023? And are you okay? Because your problem sounded rough, dude. I'm there with you. I feel it. So Wanderhome, to make a long story short, or a short story long, has a nice little snippet about you're not going to solve these people's problems. Don't expect that. Expect for there to be, lingering issues in the places that you leave. And ideally, the story that you tell is lighthearted enough that these problems lingering are not like going to keep you up at night. But, maybe you wrap back around to that town and you see that NPC and maybe they figured their shit out, or maybe things have gotten different for them in some way. And I think that's one of the really interesting kind of thesis statements, maybe, that Wanderhome tries to make. I think personally, Wanderhome is fantastic. The art is unbelievable. The book is gorgeous. The rules are easy to understand and widely applicable to a wide group of people. I think that it's not the game for everybody. Certainly not. If you're a person who really likes the gamey aspects of like D&D and Pathfinder, like if you're a stat loving, number crunching, how can I make the best build of this character type person, this is not for you, right? This is going to bore you to tears. This is not why you sit down to play TTRPGs. If you're more like me, which is to say objectively correct and sexy and beautiful in every way, you come to the table to tell stories, to tell interesting stories, to have fun with your friends, right? There's this podcast I love, Friends at the Table, and their hook is something like fun interaction and good characterization between good friends. And that's exactly what I come to the table for. So not having stats, not rolling dice, not really having that many mechanics to speak of other than that token system, which just encourages you to roleplay well, is actually kind of freeing to me, because I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to think about anything other than the story that we're telling and the environment and the atmosphere that we're trying to create. And Wanderhome, I think, walks the line a little bit of why would I not just sit down and just make something up with my friends? Like, what do I need this system for? What is the system actually doing for me that, aids the role play, that makes the experience more than just pretend improv with your friends? And I really think it does act, like I mentioned earlier, kind of as a very good prompt book for NPCs and for the places that you go. And I think it challenges you by setting up an environment in which you're going to tell stories that you're not as used to telling, with smaller scale, less violence, less go here and kill a thing to get the gold to buy a sword, to go here and kill a thing until you kill the big thing and you save the world. We've seen that campaign. We've played that campaign. What can we do to make a nice world a nicer place? How can we interact with this world and leave it as nice as it is? I think is some of the questions that it asks. And so, yeah, I don't know. I wanted to tell people about it. I wanted to tell people about the podcast we're going to do. We have episode 0, so to speak, recorded already, where we create our characters and kind of talk about what their relationships are and their interactions, and talk a little bit about the world and how we're going to start our first session. And then we're planning on recording our first session this weekend. And I don't really know what the logistics of getting these things actually uploaded is. Maybe I'll wait on uploading this video until it's uploaded. Probably not. I'm an impatient sort of fella. I might just toss it on up there right now. But regardless, I'd love if you listen to it. They're very sweet people, my friends, and we get along quite well, and I think the production is not terrible. So I can't guarantee that we're going to tell fantastic stories, but we're certainly going to try, and at the very least, you can come hang out and hear me do a really bad accent of some kind. I neglected to mention the fact that my character is a little fennec fox with a big hat that his ears stick out of, and his pet firefly rides on the brim of his hat. A little tiny, and then at night, the firefly gets really big and he gets to ride it like a hovercraft, and I have a lantern on my wooden staff and an old guitar on my back. Come on, dude. Look, I didn't cover everything about the game. I will put a link to where you can buy it down below. Please do. It's a beautiful game that is super modern and inclusive and just honestly a delight and a breeze to read through. If nothing else, you're paying for good art. But yeah, I will also eventually put the link down to the podcast, which is called We Like the Idea. Yeah, it'll be on all platforms and et cetera. And then finally, I don't know. I started this video by saying that I wouldn't talk about it, but I guess I should at the end here, because only the real ones have stuck around to the end here. Look, there's no way to say this that doesn't sound sad and pathetic, and I suppose it is. But I got laid off recently. These things happen. Capitalism, economy, number go up. For me, number go down, that sort of thing. It is what it is. I'll be all right. If anything, I'm trying to treat this as a shove, a not so gentle shove into a new chapter in my life. I'm going to be focusing on the channel more, hopefully putting stuff out regularly again. If you've signed up for Octatrack lessons, I am going to be responding to those inquiries finally, now that I have some time on my hands. So yeah, I don't know. I hate saying things like this, but if you like the channel, if you like what you see, if you care about the content I make here at all, I don't know, man. If you're able and you'd like to support the channel on Patreon, that link is always down there. Or you could just shoot me a message and say, like, don't even let them get you down, King. Stay up with it. Stay up there. I don't know. Until then, I will see you probably next week. Hopefully I have a video for you then. I have a few ideas bubbling inside my head. Who knows which one I'll actually have the motivation to create. But I will make it, and you will watch it and love it and be compelled to give me money so I can live and eat and buy more TTRPGs. Thanks. Oh, thank you for reminding me, commenters down below. Thanks for that. Wait, did you not? You didn't comment? I see it right there. I'm pretty sure you did. It's Schrodinger's comment at this point. The fourth question in Wanderhome, which I think was what we'll end on today. I'll remind you of the first three. Where have we just come from? Do we feel like our journey has been long? Is there anywhere we'd like to go? Number 4 is silently in your head asking yourself, where is my home? I love that. I want to thank you so much for watching. Could have sat down with anybody in the world today. You chose to sit down with me. A guy wearing 3-year-old torn pajamas, just sitting. And you know what? I think that is radical. I will be back next week with a new video. I hope you'll watch it. Hope you'll stick around. Hope you're all doing all right. I'm hanging in there. Hope you are too. Stay safe, stay happy, smile at people so that they can too, but don't ask them to smile at you. That sucks, dude. Just don't do that. All right, I'm Daniel. I love you so much. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.